welcome back. Today I'm going to be sharing with you how I choose which palettes I'm going to use every week. I do have a fairly large eyeshadow palette collection, at least for someone who doesn't get sent PR or anything like that. I have 90 palettes, I believe, right now, so I like to rotate them and give each palette kind of a genuine taste of my time. Does that make sense? I like to, at any rate, I do like to rotate them around just so that I do get a lot of use out of each one instead of, one sitting in a drawer for a year and a half and I forget about it and it doesn't get used, whereas I might be using another one all the time. And I like both of them equally, I just keep forgetting about it. This is a way that I can keep track of my palettes and kind of cycle through them. So I'm going to take you up to my room where my palettes are stored and I will show you how I cycle through my palettes and how I choose which ones I'm going to use every week. This is where I currently store most of my eyeshadow palettes. It is a 9-drawer Husky toolbox. I do have a couple decorating the top of the toolbox and then some in another drawer just because they also have face products in them as well, not just eyeshadows. So this is, again, is where I store it. This is the bulk of my eyeshadow collection here. Each of my eyeshadows is written down and assigned a number. I just have it written down in a notebook. It's easier for me to use a notebook and leave it in the toolbox rather than having it on a database in the computer. It works well for me. Like I said, each palette has been assigned a number and then that number is written down in the book, as well as on the back of the palette. I don't know if you can notice that right there. There's a number as well. It's just on a piece of lined paper. Nice and pretty. That is how I do have them organized right now. I'm not going to go into my collection or anything right now. This is simply to show you how I choose my palettes. Because I have so many, each week I choose 2 new palettes and I focus on those palettes every week. Occasionally it goes longer if I've gotten another palette in, because before I put it into my collection in this drawer, I always like to give it a try first just so that I kind of get a feel for it and I'm excited to use it because it's like a new present to myself. So usually every week I'm replacing them with 2 and then there's sometimes another 1 or 2 thrown in depending on if I've gotten any that I've ordered or in subscription boxes and those sort of things. The way I choose my palettes, like I said, I choose 2 usually every week, is I go to random.org and I put it in the number of palettes that I go to random.org and I put in the number of palettes I have, and then I hit generate and it gives me a random number. In this case it is number 78. The other thing I have in my notebook would be a list of all the numbers and the dates that I've used them. That way I'm not repeating any numbers throughout the time that I have them. Each palette is getting an equal share of my time, kind of thing. So I would go to find number 78, and I have never actually used that palette before. It doesn't have anything beside it yet, so that's good. I actually haven't tried number 78 yet, which is good. Sometimes it takes 3 or 4 times with the random number generator to get to one that I haven't tried yet. And 78 happens to be the Juvia's Place the Saharan palette, which would be this palette right here. And this is what it looks like in the inside. And I will mark that down in my book as well. Put the date on I will put the date at number 78 here. And then I will go and generate another number. So I go to random number generator, I hit generate, and I got number 3 this time. So let's see, have I used number 3 before? And I have, back in December. So I'm going to just generate another one. And this time I got number 74, which would be right after 73, which is probably another Juvia's Place palette. And it's the Magic palette. It would be this palette right here. And it's nice and bright and colorful. And then I would go to number 74 on my list here, and I will mark it down. So that I know when I used it. I do prefer to have, different brands and that sort of thing each week but I kind of just go with the luck of the draw and make it work. Some weeks I have some really bold palettes, like both of them would be really bold, and some weeks they're both very neutral. This week they're both by Juvia's Place, but one happens to be more neutral colors, and then the Magic palette definitely is not neutral. So we got a good mix with these. What happens sometimes too is if I feel that something might be lacking a little bit, I pull some of my single shadows at that point, or some of my cream shadows. I don't have any of those listed in my book or anything like that. I just kind of use them to supplement the shadows as well. And I also have a neutral palette that is all mattes that I have in case I pull a palette or two palettes that are all shimmers, and then at least I have something that I can work with those. So I'm not limited to making looks with like an all shimmer palette for the whole week. And that is how I store my eyeshadow palettes. I hope that made sense. I hope it wasn't too blurry and too out of focus or too confusing to watch. I hope I made sense. It made sense in my head and it works for me. But that is how I choose my palettes each week and decide which ones I'm going to use. I would love to hear in the comments below how many palettes you have and how you rotate through them. Do you just kind of pick them on a whim and what you feel like, or do you have a method to the madness as well? If you enjoyed what you saw here today, go ahead and hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.